the polarity of divine order. Recently, as we were meeting in the Circle of Light, it came up about divine order, about how can all things be in divine order and yet we still have a choice and we still have free will. And the answer is in this word, polarity. And I'd like to share about that today, about how it can be so useful to us, about how it's so difficult to grasp seemingly contradictory ideas with our head that thinks in terms of good and bad, yes and no, always on a linear chain of thought. But we have available to us a heart, an organ of spiritual perception. I brought a picture. It's difficult to see, I know it's small. I wanted one that's bigger. But I'll put it towards the camera so that our live stream audience can see it as well. This is an icon. Comes out of the Eastern Orthodox tradition. This particular icon was created in Russia, so Russian Orthodox. And it's pretty old. It's not ancient. And this particular one isn't old at all. But in the original, you see three figures sitting around a table, and on the table there's a cup. And inside the cup on the original was this white stuff, and it was sticking out from the rest of the painting on the icon. And they have determined that was glue that was used to hold a mirror on the cup. So you have the Trinity, the three persons of God, gathered around looking in a mirror at themselves. Allow that to sink in to your consciousness as we look at this polarity of divine order. I'm going to pass this around if you can make sure that it gets to everybody and then comes back to me at the end. So, another illustration. It's just a stick, right? Well, a stick is an interesting illustration of polarity because it's one stick, but it has two ends. One end might be hot and the other cold. That's a polarity. One end might be determinism, or that all is in divine order. And another might be free will. We are co-creators of God with a choice. Now, how is that useful? Let's look at what happens if determinism begins to rise above our free will. Then the view of life becomes something static. It's like, why should I even bother to get out of bed if it's already determined? Why should I struggle with my weight if it's already determined ahead of time? Either I'm going to be that way or I'm not. Why should I even try to do the right thing as my conscience tells me, if it's already determined? So you can see how it might be not very useful for everything to be determined. What's the motivation to do anything? But yet at the same time, if we turn the other end up, where we have so much choice in everything that happens that the whole world is governed by us. Well, not only is that a huge responsibility, it also lends to well, I'll use the word narcissism, right? Where we're the center of the world and everything evolves around us. What if instead of either of those choices being the one and true, only absolute choice, what if we have a polarity that is in balance, where it moves, but depending on the situation? Sometimes we need a little more determinism to feel it's okay. All is in divine order. What was that last sentence of the daily word? It said, the second to the last one, I affirm divine order and feel comforted and assured of God's presence in and through all things. Comforted and assured of God's presence. That feels a lot to me like faith. I've been thinking about this polarity. Before I even knew this word polarity, I was confronted with, well, what about this determinism and this free will? Early on, I came to the conclusion that most of the time, when we're living down here in this blue area, we're about as mechanical as a car. Something happens and we react to it, not even a thought. We just go to the next thing. It's kind of like when you touch a hot stove, you automatically move your hand back. That's a completely mechanical reaction, determined, cause and effect, like we learned in physics. This cause generates that effect, an equal and opposite reaction. Science teaches us that. But then there's moments in our life where we have a choice, and we know we have a choice, and we can feel that this choice really matters. We've climbed up. This is a moment of clarity, a moment of consciousness, and what I decide makes a difference. So that was an early way I thought about it. As I explored the idea, I came across some things, these mathematical models. Let's just look at the lectern here. There's several objects that are gathered on it. There's a Bible, there's a stick, there's a painting. Hiding back here, there's a phone. There's several things that could happen here, and some things that cannot happen here, right? I can't take a bowl of water off this lectern and throw it in the floor, because there's not a bowl of water on the lectern. I can choose, though. I can't choose to throw the bowl of water on the floor, but I can choose to throw the stick on the floor, just like that. I can choose to throw a Bible on the floor, but I'm not. I still have that superstition in me. That comes from, I think, purple or something. We'll talk about those colors another day. Now, what if, at the moment of that choice to pick up the stick, I made the decision to throw it on the floor, okay? And that was one universe that split off, the universe where I picked it up and threw it on the floor. What if there's another universe that happened at that same moment where I didn't pick the stick up and I didn't throw it in the floor? Boom. You ever heard of the idea of a multiverse? It's just a complicated model for how this might happen, okay? How both of these choices might be part of divine order. There's the universe where I actually picked up the Bible and threw it in the floor too. Okay, so I know this is confusing, but I wanted to throw it out there just so you can see how hard it is for our brain to come to this resolution of two contradictory ideas. I remember reading a book, The Eternal Golden Blade, Gödel Escherbach, and And there was a statement in there. And it goes like this. This is an illustration of a paradox. This statement is false. Well, what if it's true? If it's a true statement, this statement is false, then it's saying that the statement's false. So how can it be true? If the statement is false, then it says this statement is false, then it's true. Do you see the problem here? All right. So it's kind of like that. Jesus had something to say about it too. But so did the prophets. Let's look back at the Proverbs. It's in the wisdom section of the Hebrew Scriptures. We go to chapter 16, and I read verse 9. Think about this in terms of the polarity of divine order, okay? A person's heart devises their ways, but the Lord directs their steps. I'll read it one more time. I'm changing the masculine gender just because I can. I have that choice.
Well, what if you didn't?
If I didn't, it would read, a man's heart devises his ways, but the Lord directs his steps. A person's heart devises their ways, but the Lord directs their steps. The Lord. Who's the Lord? Who's the Lord again? Some guy with a white beard on a cloud? No. Spirit. Ruah. It's the highest and best part of us. All right. Don't think about it too hard. Open your heart. Trust your heart to lead you home. That was the song last week. Heart is the way. The heart is an organ of spiritual perception. It's in the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Okay. Let's try this sentence out. See how this sentence might relate to the stick. Okay? Remember the stick? It can go this way, or maybe move around, hover around a balance point. Okay. It's a little bit longer than this statement is false. Okay? So you got to pay attention for a minute. These words arrive by necessity. These words I'm speaking arrive by necessity, shaped by laws older than us. Yet in the quiet between them, you decide who you will be. All right, let's break it down now. Help a little bit. The words arrive as a necessity. Okay, so in this sentence, we've got an inherent grammar and meaning of these words that came to us a long time ago. And we kind of all learned that as we grew up, but it was way before us that this system came in place. But in between those words, our brain pulls that idea in with that structure and decides what it means to us. So do you see that? It's determined the grammar. It's determined the meaning of the words. What's not determined is how you're going to bring that experience in and internalize it and give it meaning to yourself. We can look outside. Remember that day when the deer walked down here? It was a beautiful moment. That was determined. The deer were definitely walking right along the edge of the church. Did that have meaning? Did you give it meaning in the moment? That was your choice. You didn't have any choice about the deer walking along the side of the church. But you had a choice about whether it would just be, oh, how pretty. Or, wow, what was he just saying up there that I need to pay attention to at this moment when these deer walked by? Is there something special that I was thinking maybe that I need to reinforce in this moment? Why did those deer choose that moment to walk by? Could be it had no meaning at all. And that's a choice. But it could be that it did. And every bit of our life is like that. We just finished with a series of sermons called What's in the Way is the Way. It's looking at life and seeing, well, what can that teach me about myself? This thing that's predetermined, that I have a choice in this delicate balancing act between the two. And if I go this way, then every little single thing has meaning. You know? I might just see something and be scared because of that thing out there and I have no reason at all to be afraid of it. Or, anyway, there's a balance. When we're living in separate self, you can bet that the balance is very strong on the determined side. We are reacting to what happens to us. We move upward. And I would say at this point, it's not like this either. But we're in the balance. The highest part of us is taking this balance to the maximum benefit of the moment so that we see it just the way that it is the highest good for us and for the world. So which one's right? Both. Both are right. It's part of a polarity. The stick needs both ends to be a stick. If it didn't have two ends, it wouldn't be a stick. Yeah, I love it. It is funny. Let's read one more Bible verse here. This one's in Matthew. I like Matthew quite a bit, and it's actually part of the Sermon on the Mount, which is really my favorite part of the whole Bible. So how do we get around this? How do we deal with this? Chapter 6, verse 33 of the Gospel according to Matthew. But seek first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. That's finding the presence. All is in divine order. Resting on the faith that we can only feel when we know that we are connected. And connected through God with every single person, every single energetic event. And what's not energy? Einstein, that E equals mc squared, it says that everything is energy. And we had it anyway. That balance. Seek first the kingdom of God. And you could say that then you don't have to even think about it. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Because you're going to be in the balance. You don't have to think about it. It is. Just like you are. And so, I invite you to try it out. Don't take my word for it. Just think about it. Remember the lectern with the different objects on it. Remember that sentence, this statement is false. Love it. Love it. Look at the things that are going on around you and the different ways that they could possibly affect your consciousness. And how does that relate to this idea of the polarity of divine order? The polarity of divine order.